Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? Today is Saturday, January 28th, 2023. I pray that this message reaches you all in the best of health, spirit, and mind. Can you believe that January is already over? It's like time is just flying by at such an outrageous pace. There's so much happening on so many different levels that I think our whole entire concept of time is completely rearranged right now. And with that in mind, before I get into what I want to talk about today, I would like to collectively just take a couple of breaths together. I don't know what you'll be doing when you hear this message. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're cleaning up, maybe you're working, using me as background music. And if so, that's all good. But wherever you are right now, I just want to take a couple of deep breaths together and kind of settle into a collective energy, because there's a lot of dense and very chaotic energy in the world, and in the collective consciousness. I know that the Tyree Nichols situation is definitely something that's very strong in the hearts and minds of the people. I have very strong opinions and perspectives about that, but I'm going to talk about that in headline news tomorrow. I'm going to stay focused on the nature of this conversation, and in particular because we use headline news to talk about the difficult stuff, right? That's what it's sort of shaped itself to become that, because there's so much happening that we can't really talk about in a public space anymore because of censorship. And not just not being able to talk about it in public spaces, but also it's necessary to talk about the things that are happening on the ground so that we can be prepared for it, be ready to deal with it, not getting caught with our heads in the sand, so to speak. So that's why that's important. So these type of conversations are just as important, because this is the balance. And so, yes, periodically, I'll probably say something about the chaos and insanity that's happening in the world, because it's the elephant in the room. But when we talk about keeping your heart pure, and sort of having these heart-to-heart, mind-to-mind conversations, this is about fine-tuning the love frequency. This is about keeping us centered. This is about keeping us balanced. And this is about emphasizing the largest part of who we are as divine beings, which is spiritual beings having a human experience. And so for me, that's always a focal point to get beyond the craziness happening in the world. This is just one layer of my existence. And so in respecting that and in honoring that, I have developed processes and personal methodologies, if that's even the right way to say it, to be able to recenter myself. I told you guys in the last video that I got hit with a bout of anxiety. And of course, I've had time to think about that, to process it. I'm carrying a lot of energetic weight for a lot of people. I love a lot of people beyond just the people that I know personally. I have a lot of people that rely on me energetically. And I'm also always conscientiously trying to tap into the pulse of the people and see where people are, how we're feeling, how we're thinking, and what that is adding to the collective consciousness. And so for 3 years, with that as the backdrop, having to constantly process and transmute and observe, know when to speak and when to be quiet and when to be still, analyze, and obviously self-reflect, because what's the point of any of that if it's not going to help me evolve and become a better person? But it's a lot. And so, because heart-centered beings and sensitive and compassionate beings are exactly what the world needs right now, more than ever. And because I know that I am that to a fault, I say that tongue in cheek, but it's true. And many of you that will be listening to this have that same, aspect of your personality or character, so to speak, which would explain why you would be attracted to my message. Because we're in alignment, we feel what's happening in the world, and it's what's very, very necessary for this hour. But oh my goodness, what a cross to carry. A friend and I were having a conversation earlier, and we're talking about the male-female dichotomy. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself, guys, because we're 6 minutes in and we still haven't taken our breaths. I have notes and I have some things that I want to read, and I'm gung ho about getting into the subject as you can see. But let's just take a couple of not physically stop whatever you're doing, but let's just take a couple of breaths in harmony, in gratitude and in appreciation of this moment, wherever this message finds you, whatever you're doing right now. I know that you're alive. I know that you're aware. I know that your heart is beating. I know that your breath is working. And hopefully this message is going to find you in a good space. But let's just take maybe 3 collective breaths in through the nose and then out through the mouth. Try to breathe in a little bit deeper than you normally would. And let's just start with 1 breath in through the nose. This is what I do in my breathing and yoga classes. And out through the mouth. Slow, controlled breaths. We're not in a rush. We're not in a hurry, and it's all good. Taking another slow, deep breath in through the nose. And then slowly releasing out through the mouth. And one last time, and we're going to release all of the tension, any tension in the shoulders and in the jaws and in the face. Relax your face muscles and take a slow, deep breath in through the nose. And exhale out through the mouth. Okay, and so I actually, before I started this video, I had to take about 5 minutes and focus on my breathing, because I was watching a video about this deep fake sort of altering real videos and real human beings, and portraying them to be something else. A lot of the new Damar Hamlin video that's been released, and again, I'll talk about that tomorrow. But in this video, this gentleman said something at the end of the video. He had like 50 seconds. The video was pretty much over, so I was already like getting ready to fast forward past it, and he said something that was so specific in time and so not really what I want to hear, and something that was just so like, it just hit me in the gut. And it was something, it's not something that I haven't been cognizant of, that I don't know that these people are planning, but the way he said it so matter-of-factly and ended the video. That's why I'm always cognizant about delivering this information and recognizing that when I talk about difficult things, I have to be in the right state of mind. It's not just talking to you guys. The frequency behind the words have to match the intention. So if I'm in a space of anxiety, I can't come online and talk about keeping the heart pure because my heart's not really feeling pure. That's the real authentic aspect of spirituality that a lot of people can't find their particular lane in because there's all these limitations in, still having jobs, still having to, acclimate to certain religious aspects of depending on how you were brought up, cultural relativity, racism, poverty, suffering, chaos, all these different dynamics. So we can't even oh, what a beautiful world it would be if all I had to do was focus on keeping my heart pure without seeing madness and chaos. It'd be so simple then, right? So being authentic, learning how to be authentic and true to yourself, that's wisdom for me. Even we have this collective group, we have this membership channel, I have timelines and things that I want to consistently meet, and the standard that I want to operate this membership channel. I also have a lot of things going on right now. And so I know the frequency is clear right now. I can sit down and talk to you tonight and discuss keeping the heart pure. And because the frequency is in alignment with the message, I can assure you that the message is going to reach you in a space of truth. Something I say, because I did the work before I even came and sat down and prepared to bring this message to you. The work that most people are running from and spend their whole entire lives running from. Self-analysis, self-awareness. Why is my energy off? Why is this voice in my head that sounds like me, but doesn't really sound like me? What's that about? Why am I feeling elevated stress and pressure in my chest when I'm not in any danger? There's no specific right now thing for me to be so concerned about that it's physically affecting me. Then I had to step back for a couple of days and re-look at myself and reanalyze myself through the eyes of compassion, which is what we're going to talk about because we're talking about keeping the heart pure. I had a conversation back and forth with one of the sisters in the membership channel. And when I put the previous post up and I said, I had to take a couple of days off. So I just specifically focused on the book. That's not taking a couple of days off. You know what I mean? But again, having to stop and look at myself and analyze myself. And it took me having that conversation for her even commenting on the post for me to be like, wait a minute, did I really just say that out loud? But stopping and reevaluating and looking at myself through compassionate eyes. You got a lot going on right now, ZaZa. What's the pressing issue for you in this moment that you feel stress and concern? And then, of course, taking the time to be self-aware and to analyze myself and then realize that I'm carrying, remember that I'm carrying a lot of weight and strain that's not mine. Weight, strain, stress. I can feel the pulse of the collective consciousness in a very serious way. So when we say keep your heart pure, and I was inspired, Nipsey Hussle, I put up a short clip of him in my Instagram story, and that was one of the things that he said, keep your heart pure. And I was like, what, we say that, and if you say that, everybody will kind of, nod and be like, yeah, that's real. But what does that actually mean? Keep your heart pure. What does that actually mean? When I first asked myself that question, my immediate answer was, to thine own self be true. I don't know who I know the Bible says something very similar to that. I feel like Shakespeare or somebody else said it in a more poetic way, but to thine own self be true to me would be an appropriate correlation or an appropriate metaphor for keeping your heart pure. So what does that mean? Is that an identifiable goal or way of life? Could we all say after having this conversation, or like I've had my personal introspection and you go meditate and have personal introspection and say, you know what, that's a goal for me to keep my heart pure. And then can you define it for yourself? So I looked up pure, and you know, there's always 3 or 4 different definitions, but the ones that I settled on was free of contamination, pure, having a pure heart without malice, treachery, or evil intent, and without any extraneous or unnecessary elements. Pure, meaning without anything added, any extraneous or unnecessary elements. Without malice, treachery, or evil intent. Free of contamination. And then the adjectives were honest and sincere. I was having a conversation with a friend earlier about the male-female dichotomy. And we were, discussing different things that were happening online with social media, passport boys, the whole divergent thing, the argumentative element in terms of the Black female dichotomy in particular. And I was just saying, we don't have another 10 years to hash this out. I don't even like dealing with the clock. I think the clock, my spirit, I have learned, is adverse to the timeline of this world. And I've finally given myself permission to respect that and to honor that. And my life flows so much more freely in lieu of that. Still working on timing and, obviously I have deadlines and goals and things that I have to meet. But I've also found this authentic lane where I can, balance those 2 different aspects of myself and the expectations of the world. We don't have another 10 years. And there is deep, deep frustration between the sexes. And it is culminating and being exasperated every day. But the one thing that's not being exasperated and emphasized is self-awareness, self-accountability, and self-love. And I say that tongue in cheek because, of course, there's always people talking about it in one instance or another. So I hate when people say nobody's talking about it. There's always somebody's talking about it. The question is, are people listening? So I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. In terms of the collective consciousness, there is no real full-fledged emphasis on self-accountability, self-awareness, and self-love. Not in the churches, not in the mosques, not in the spiritual institutions, not in ways that are penetrating the collective consciousness. Like I always say, if it's not assisting and elevating your personal power, then what's the point of any of it, whether it's me or deep frustration between the sexes. Deep frustration in the minds and the hearts of the masses of people. Dissatisfaction brings change. So when I have anxiety or when I feel that heart frequent energy tugging at me in a positive, loving, uplifting way, or in a heavy, weighted way, I stop and pause because I know that that's where things get created. I know that's how experiences get provoked. And the very next day, my car wouldn't start. And I'm not saying that I caused that to happen, But I've referenced Greg Braden multiple times in the examples that he gives in terms of the physical energetic body, and how our cars and our homes and our environments become energetically synchronized with us. And so they are affected by the way that we feel. And depending on the magnitude of the energy, yeah, you can set some things off. The car's a motor. You're an electromagnetic being. The car has a motor and an electrical system. You're an electromagnetic being. So for me, it's not even far-fetched to consider. And when it happened to me, I was like, see, this is why you got to control the frequency. This is why I take my energy seriously when I sit down and have these conversations, because now it's not just me processing this message. There's another 100 people, maybe 500 people, maybe a couple of thousand people, depending on if this is a conversation that we eventually make public, or if this is just a personal conversation in the membership. And even that number is significant and can have serious ripple effects in the ethers of consciousness. So yeah, I take it serious. There is a correlation between keeping the heart pure and what I call how strong is your signal. So I've shared this video multiple times, and I turn the volume off. I'm just gonna read the text as it goes through the video, and then once I finish reading the text, then I'll contextualize the imagery in the video with the point that I'm making about keeping the heart pure. Human auras, authentic audio recording, bioengineering. This is an actual audio recording of a human aura in a bioenergy field. This auric field is documented in a laboratory that recorded the yellow and green frequencies in the energy field. Notice the constant moving dynamics. Notice the shift in frequency signature as the same subject shifts states of consciousness. This higher vibratory field is documented as the gold frequency signature in the human bioenergy field. Excuse me. Water. Auras dynamically change, physical changes, feeling states, motivation, and the object radiation, and living radiation. So we're talking about how strong is the signal. What are you radiating? What are you attracting? You know what you're radiating based on the experiences that you're attracting, based on the people that you're attracting. And so this is going to go on to show multiple images. The dog, you can see its energetic field and its energetic aura, and then how the collective frequency between the two of them relating and connecting and sharing this bonding experience makes the signal and the frequency stronger. Love is the highest frequency. Obviously, being in nature-based settings, and you can see that the energetic aura around this man is being magnified by the energetic aura or the electromagnetic field of the beach energy, that kinetic energy that's taking place all the time in a natural setting like this. The sand is moving, the water is moving, the water is moving the sand, the birds are moving. There's so much activity in this image, and this man's electromagnetic aura is being magnified. So we have to ask ourselves, what frequency are we radiating most consistently? Because when we talk about keeping the heart pure, to thine own self be true, is this a personal goal for us on a day-to-day basis? Can you conceive of that? Today's goal is to thine own self be true. That's difficult for a lot of people to conceive, because we have relationships and jobs and friendships and family, establishments, relationships that we were born into that we really didn't have any say over. that are weakening our signal and weakening our frequency. As you see this connection between this woman who's, as she's chanting the ohms, magnifying her electromagnetic field, and her and the child aren't even touching. And this is important for parents to understand, that this electromagnetic field is still in place, even when your children are not in your physical, the indirect physical space with you, in your presence, I should say. So what are you beaming into the universe? What is your energetic resonance, your energetic stamp? What is your heart resonance saying and communicating to the world? Is it fear? Is it self-pity? Is it worry? Is it doubt? I know when I'm off course, when I'm out of alignment, because I know that my natural preference, my soul naturally vibrates at the right space. I feel the best when there is love present. Real love, true, authentic love, starting with me. My ability to be able to live with myself, to have the majority positive conversations with myself, to not be that little song and dance happening in my brain where I'm questioning myself and doubting myself. When that song and dance in the brain is happening too much, that means the love frequency is getting weak. That means the emotional heart frequency, the energetic aura, the resonance is getting weak. The signal is not amplified. We're not radiating blue. We're not radiating gold. We're not radiating love and power and strength. So now we got to get back into alignment. Fear is anti-God. I know the scriptures say you're supposed to fear God. It just never resonated with me. So I'm not even gonna, my spirit never understood that. Because why would a God that created everything that we see in this image, all this bountifulness, abundance, and beauty, and why would a God like that ever require or need fear? Fear is important in terms of self-mastery and in terms of learning how to process emotions and master energy, and master emotions and process energy or transmute energy, which is what we see happening in these images, especially when there's two parties involved. That's an energy transmutation between this man and nature. His field is stronger because he's in the presence of nature. When the mother and child are in the image together, those two frequencies coming together in the love resonance being magnified, and then her taking it to a whole nother level and focusing in on the breath and focusing on the self-awareness and focusing on being present. And now we talk about putting on the armor of God. That is what you're witnessing in this image. And not only is she covering herself, she's covering her child as well. This is a spiritual, energetic, I was going to say war, but I'm going to say goal in terms of our states of consciousness and awareness, because we're talking about keeping the heart pure. So fear is anti-God, and they know that. That's why they are constantly implementing culture and media and societal norms that keep you locked in the fear frequency, because the fear frequency weakens the signal. Whatever you're afraid of, it doesn't matter. So on a collective level, we're gonna have to learn how to turn the world off to avoid and navigate the fear aspect at all costs. That's why I can't sit down and watch a video of another Black man be beaten and tormented, especially at the hands of other Black men. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. but I'm not subjecting myself to that because that weakens my signal. There's no benefit for me to be a witness to that. But that's why they're going to show it on the news over and over and over and over. And they're going to say, warning, this is graphic, so be careful. Now go sit in a corner and cry. Watch this 10 times and now go sit in a corner and cry. How strong do you think your signal is at that point? This is why we have to be spiritually, mentally, and emotionally prepared. We can't wait for this train to start railing off the tracks, because it takes preparation. The mental, spiritual, emotional aspects of ourselves take cultivation. It's not like you go in a gym and thug it out for 6 months and you know what I'm saying, you can see very impressive results. Yeah, you can work on yourself for 6 months, but depending how long you've been on the hamster wheel, which most of us, it's most of our lives, it's going to take a lot more than 6 months. Now, if you have a head start, if you don't have to worry about, maybe if you're not pressed and you can spend a lot of time just purely working on yourself and you don't have to focus on a business or focus on raising children, focus on a family, focus on things outside of yourself, then 6 months could be even though this is not about time, this is way beyond time. But the point is, it takes cultivation, it takes awareness, it takes inner reflection, it takes turning off the world and being silent and listening to yourself. As you can see from this image, and I've shown this image in a lot of different ways. This is the electromagnetic field of the heart and the heart resonance. In human magnetism and the electromagnetic field. This is a quote from the Science of Self workbook. As electricity passes through a metal wire, it causes an energy field or magnetic field. In a similar way, human electricity in the brain and nervous system creates human magnetic fields. There are billions of nerve impulses in the body, and these are constantly creating complex human magnetic fields. The human heart is a source of The human heart is a source of electromagnetism that, even at a few meters away, is detectable by modern scientific instruments. The image on the right shows an input electric current producing a magnetic field around one wire. This field passes through another wire and creates an output electric current. In physical science, this is called magnetic induction. Similarly to magnetic induction in metal wires, the human electromagnetic field can be felt or can influence other people who are standing by. So the people that are in our lives are very important in terms of the strength of our signal, how strong the frequency is. So when we have dull, mediocre jobs and dull, mediocre relationships and dull, mediocre conversations, did I say mediocre? Dull, mediocre conversations and dull, mediocre interactions and surface level thinking and surface level experiences and surface level relationships where we can't even have real, authentic conversations. It's weakening the frequency. We're supposed to be expanding. We're supposed to be challenged. We're supposed to be invigorated and excited about life. That makes the signal stronger. Creativity, physical touch, love, and not just love from a spouse, love from a partner, or love from a family member, or love from a child. Most importantly, love for yourself. You saw how the frequency works. You saw how the aura works. You can have a strong signal on your own accord. You can go and connect with nature and expand the frequency and strengthen the signal. Just you. You can also dull the frequency if you're in a dull relationship. You can dull the frequency if you're eating an acidic diet. You can weaken the signal if you hang around weak-minded people. You can weaken the signal if you are having consistent sexual encounters and physical encounters with low vibrational beings, especially if they have taken the shot. That's a whole other conversation. So it matters who you spend your time with. It matters what you consistently watch. It matters what you read. It matters how you feel. It matters how you think. Yes, the universe actually does care. How do we know? Because look at your life. How you're feeling is by default creating your reality. I'd say the universe interprets how you feel as what you want. Imagine that. If when it all boils down to it, the universe is determining, God is determining the quality of experiences, the quality of relationships, the quality of love, the quality of life based on how you feel. And that just seems too simple to be true. But that's actually how this whole system works. That's why they spend so much time keeping us on the hamster wheel. That's why credit systems were developed to keep you in debt, because as long as you're in debt, you cannot spiritually, mentally, and emotionally fly, soar. Worrying about money is the most instrumental and effective way to kill creativity. So it's like when I'm in book mode, it's hard for me to deal with the sales aspect of the book, because it intrudes in the creative process, because now I have to turn off a certain part of my brain and turn another part of my brain on. And those two things aren't necessarily always mutually exclusive. Like when I talk about transformation versus transactional, the business part of the book industry is transactional. The type of books that I create are transformational. Because I could write books about a lot of things that I know are much more popular. Everybody wants me to write a book about white supremacy. People still come to me and ask me about the volume 3 of Black Matters, which was supposed to be about racism, white supremacy. And I continuously said, my state of awareness is nowhere near. I would never have the ability to write a book about racism, white supremacy right now, because that's not even in my realm of consciousness. That world is on its way out. That's like a past tense. We're just watching it dissolve slowly. By the way, the whole aspect of 5 very Black police officers, being very brutalic, and the whole entire world seeing it. Yeah, that's a very calculated strategy. So if we say fear is anti-God, tongue in cheek, because we understand that fear has a place. Fear builds character. Facing your fear builds character. Fear doesn't build character. Facing your fears builds character. Fear tears people apart. Fear starts wars. Fears create chaos. Facing fears is where God is. And so that's the most important aspect of this conversation about keeping your heart pure, to thine own self be true. Are you being true to yourself in this hour, at this point in your life? Are you facing those aspects of yourself that you've been running from? Because that's the microcosm of the macrocosm. If you can prove it on an individual level, you can manifest it and magnify it in the collective consciousness. We saw the video. You're radiating a certain frequency. What are the expectations that come with that frequency as you move out into the world? Are you expecting chaos? Are you expecting doors to close before they ever open for you? Are you expecting people to hurt you? Do you have a negative, suspicious relationship with trust? You know, in our culture, we say you can't trust nobody. Well, what a hell of a way to live. Because if you can't trust anybody, then nobody should be able to trust you. So you want to attract people that are trustworthy, become trustworthy. Resonate the vibration and the frequency of trustworthiness. So there's a passage I want to read from Becoming Supernatural. It's called The Benefits of Heart Coherence. And this is starting on page 164. He says, when we choose to cultivate and experience elevated emotions, the coherent signal of those elevated emotions reaches the brain. If the amplitude of the signal is high enough, chemicals equal to those feelings and emotions are released into the body. Now that goes both ways. If you're feeling elated, high, joyful, gratitude, that releases a specific chemicals. If you feel hatred, envy, frustration, anxiety, that releases a different set of chemicals. He says, we call this a feeling, and positive feelings like this make us feel lighter and freer. In other words, the energy of your whole state of being is elevated. If you are feeling an elevated sense of well-being in a safe environment, the energy of those feelings sets in motion a cascade of at least 1,400 biochemical changes in the body that promote growth and repair. As I always say, we are wired for well-being. God created you to experience life at a very, very, very high and elevated capacity. That's why he or she or it or they or the creator gave you this magnificent machine in order to operate in this third dimensional reality in the first place. Instead of drawing from the invisible field of energy around your body to transform energy into chemistry, now you're adding to and expanding that field, resulting in a new expression of chemistry reflective of the energy of the change in energy. We just saw that happening in the videos. How? He says, if the first three energy centers of the body are energy consumers when we are out of balance, he's talking about the lower three chakras. The heart is an energy expander. And when you rest your attention in your heart to create and sustain elevated emotions, that coherent energy causes your heart to beat like a drum. It's that coherent rhythmic beating that creates a measurable magnetic field around your heart and thus your body. Just like the focused beat of a drum that produces a measurable sound wave, the stronger the coherent rhythm of the heart, the more expanded your field becomes. This is why your breathing is so critical. Because if you can come back to your breath, you can think your way through anything. This is why there's nonstop stimulation, nonstop scrolling, nonstop commercials, nonstop advertisement, nonstop mental and emotional stimulation. When you are feeling hurt, anger, stress, jealousy, rage, competition, or frustration, on the other hand, the signal from the heart to the brain becomes incoherent, and this triggers the release of approximately 1,200 chemicals into the body equal to those feelings. Like I just said a second ago, the pendulum always swings to one end of the spectrum. Higher self, lower self. Alkaline, acidic. Love, hate, or love, fear, excuse me. Love and fear are on polar opposites of the spectrum. Hate is a repository or a reflection of fear. So this works both ways. God is looking at you like, okay, what do you feel? Your body proves it. Okay, you feel horrible, you feel depressed, you feel stressed. Okay, well, here's all of the chemicals, 1,200 of them to be exact, according to Dr. Joe Dispenza. Here's 1,200 chemicals that resonate with their frequency. This is what you, to thine own self be true. God said, be and it is. What does that mean on an individual level? That means you feel like shit. Okay, be and it is. Here's everything in the world and everything in your experiences that are going to validate how you feel. I love you that much. That's the misconception of the scriptures. So God so loves the world that he gave his only begotten son. You are the only begotten son. Whatever you want, you can have. You want stress, you want fear, you want chaos, you want anger. Here's more. And it seems horrible and unfair and unequitable and unjust until you learn that the system on a universal level works exactly the same way in the opposite direction. And not only that, but according to Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you're on the love frequency, you're going to get 1,400 biochemical changes and releases into the bloodstream that are going to amplify the frequency of love and higher elevated states of consciousness. It all starts and ends with you. And we can prove it from every spectrum of the human experience. The mental experience, being it is, what you think is creating your reality. If you're inspired and you have good expectations and you think good things are coming to you and good things your hard work is going to pay off, your dedication and loyalty is going to pay off, guess what? It's on the way. But if you're more focused on all of the things that could go wrong than you are on all the things that will go right, then guess what? They're on the way. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. For God so loves you that you can choose slavery if you want to. It's not what God set you up for. It's definitely not a part of the original plan, but if that's what you want, so be it. He said something. There was a statement in this book that was so powerful. Did I mark the page? I have so many pages marked and highlighted in this book that sometimes it's hard to keep track of what I even want to. It's like, there was one statement. Where is it? Maybe it's not in this book. It might have been in Greg Braden's book. I think it's in Greg Braden's book. Divine Matrix. One of my other. Oh. The consciousness of the observer determines how energy will behave. Now, remember, we're talking about keeping the heart pure. We're still on subject because the heart is an energy transmutation apparatus. That sounds way nerdier than what it needs to, but I'm a nerd, so you guys got to just work with me. An energy transmutation apparatus. Really, ZaZa? That's how it said it in my brain. The consciousness of the observer determines how energy will behave. This is why to thine own self is to be true is important, because the more you're true to yourself, the more you focus on keeping your heart uncontaminated, unpolluted, not surrounding yourself with people that you know are not in your best interest, not constantly taking on other people's problems or jobs or experiences that you know are not in your best interest, afraid of starting the business that's not, and that you have a passion and a burning desire for, that's not in your best interest. That's not keeping your heart pure. That's not to thine own self be true. Think about the Alchemist, the book. Santiago tried everything in his power to not follow his destiny and go after his treasure. He tried everything. He even had success on the way of avoiding his treasure. But his heart was beating, not beating, but knocking. Don't forget the goal. Don't forget the goal. We have to have something constantly driving us, constantly renewing us, new things to explore, new things to experience, new ways of creative expression, new ways to think, new thoughts, new ideas. I drove to Santa Monica yesterday to go walk the beach because I needed to have a different experience at the beach on that particular day. I want to see some new things. I want to see some new people. We need grid stabilizers. Even the all in itself manifests a constant state of vibration of such an infinite degree of intensity and rapid motion that it may be practically considered as at rest. Even on the physical plane, a rapidly moving object, such as a revolving wheel, seems to be at rest. Spirit is at one end of the pole of vibration, the other pole being certain extremely gross forms of matter. Between these two poles are millions upon millions of different rates and moves of vibration. And between these poles, that quote is from the Kabbalion. And I'll go one further and say between these two poles are millions upon millions of avenues and roads and opportunities and forks in the road and moments of clarity and moments of gratitude and moments of happiness and moments of chaos and sadness. You have got to dictate your own personal timeline. To thine own self be true. We're not on the clock of this world anymore. I'm not talking about what time you get up and go to work and what time you have to drop your children off at the daycare. I'm talking about waking up and being able to have control of your thinking. I'm talking about moving out into the world and having control over how you feel. I'm talking about having self-awareness and monitoring yourself to the point where if you start feeling yourself getting out of alignment, or the fear and the self and the worry and the self-doubt starts to be just a little bit louder than the God voice, then we stop everything and make ourselves the priority in order to get back to the center. That's how you keep your heart pure. That's how you learn how to trust yourself and build confidence in yourself, by living your true, authentic life. It's hard to trust yourself when you are invested in things that are not in your best interest. It's hard to trust yourself when you're in a relationship that's dragging you down. And then to get in the mirror and say affirmations and to listen to, ZaZa Ali or Neville Goddard on the car radio while you're driving to work. But you're heavily entrenched in relationships or experiences that you know are not in your best interest. It's hard to convince yourself that you have self-love when you are exhibiting anything but. So between these two poles of the spiritual being that you are, which is limitless, and the physical being that you are, which has limitations, gross forms of matter, as is referenced in the book. Limitless spiritual self, spiritual being, limited physical being. Between these two poles are millions upon millions of routes and choices and doors and opportunities and beautiful people and beautiful worldly experiences. And it's not dependent upon what's going on in the world. It's not dependent upon how much evil and chaos is going in the world. It's not dependent on artificial intelligence. It's not dependent on transhumanism and transgender agendas and racism, white supremacy, and crashing economies and cyber attacks and food shortages. It is not dependent upon any of those things. If you can find a space and collect yourself and collect your breath, and remember who you are and envision it in your mind and match it with the frequency and get in alignment in the heart space, mind, heart, cohesion, synchronicity, maintain the frequency, be light in your affairs, monitor what you're thinking, monitor what you're eating, fast, go out and spend time in nature, magnify the frequency when you're in nature. Surround yourself with beautiful, loving people that you don't have to keep your spiritual guard up. It's too much work to be surrounded by people that don't mean us well. The times are too chaotic to be living people who don't have your best interest with people who don't have your best interest at hand, to be invested in people that don't have your best interest at hand. And that includes jobs or businesses that are sucking the life out of you and you're just holding on to it because of what the time that you've invested, et cetera, et cetera. Those particular examples will be different for all of us. But everybody listening to me knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's not about the particular experience, it's about to thine own self be true. It's about keeping the heart pure. And we all know when we're not doing that. And each one of us, if we grabbed a piece of paper, could probably give 5 examples of either something that we're entangled in at the moment, or plenty of life experiences that we've learned from, and therefore we don't have to have those experiences anymore. So keeping the heart pure doesn't mean that you've never failed. It doesn't mean that you've never been through bad experiences. It doesn't mean that you come from a wonderful, beautiful family and everything is all hunky-dory and you don't have any problems. No, it means right now, today, on Saturday, January 28th at approximately 11:17 Pacific Standard Time, right now, my highest and most important focus and goal is maintaining my frequency and mindset and vibration and choosing myself first and loving myself first and focusing on myself first. Not to be confused with our roles as parents. A lot of us have indirectly raised children that are not prepared for this world because we neglected and abandoned ourselves when we raised them. So we indirectly taught our children how to abandon and neglect themselves for other people and other things. And then they end up doing that. To thine own self be true. Can we make keeping our hearts pure as a real goal? To thine own self be true. Can you make living your highest and best authentic life your job, your number one job? As important as it is to bring in money, as important as the income from your business or from your job. As important as it is keeping your children in line, keeping your children on track, making sure they have food and protection and safety. Can you make to thine own self be true, be your number one priority? Because if you can, then you will automatically magnify the frequency and the vibration of everything in your vicinity, especially those close to you. We saw it on the video. And those were little spurts. Those were moments in time. Those were brief settings where they filmed somebody in a specific experience for a specific reason. Imagine having a camera in a household on a 24-hour basis. When somebody comes home from work and all of the chaos that's happening in work comes with you in the house, what do you think your aura and your frequency looks like? What does it feel like to be around you? What does it feel like to be in your life? What does it feel like for you to be in your life? That's a hell of a question. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. What does it feel like for you to be in your life? It sounds like a very simple, almost dumb question, to be honest, but it's a very deep question to ask yourself. Do I love the life that I've created? Do I like this experience of life that I'm having? Is it satisfying? Because you're here, we're wired for well-being. You're here to have a great time. Yeah, you're going to mess up. Yes, you're going to bump your head. Yes, you're going to lose people you love. Yes, people are going to betray you. Yes, life is going to sabotage you at one point or another. Yes, your family is going to disappoint you. Yes, your children are going to disappoint you. But guess what? You're here to love. You're here to feel deeply compassion, excitement, invigoration, creativity. That's where that's where I need you to be. Not for me, but for the collective consciousness. We need the love frequency high. We need the signal strong. We need the auras passionate. We need gold frequencies, white frequencies, green frequencies, blue frequencies, powerful auras, grid stabilizers, people that walk into the room and bring the frequency and elevate everybody around them. That's what we need. That's what the world needs. That takes self-awareness, self-accountability, and most important, self-love. So keep your heart pure and to thine own self be true. Peace and love.